Welcome to the show, everybody. Thanks so much for being with us today. We got a good one for you. So many have asked the question why President Trump seems unconcerned with the upcoming midterm elections and how, according to predictions, it should be a bloodbath for Republicans. Today, we may have an answer as to why he seems so unconcerned. The Supreme Court just ruled that it's unconstitutional to draw congressional districts based on race, which means several Republican-controlled southern states, which consist of gerrymandered districts that provide black citizens manufactured representation in Washington, D.C., have a golden opportunity to flip 12 Democrat seats to the GOP. Nationwide, that number could increase to as much as a 19-seat pickup for Republicans. Former President Obama is very upset about the Supreme Court's latest ruling. And, of course, this comes on the heels of the latest developments last week where we have this court-challenged Virginia referendum that stripped 5 seats away from the GOP. Today in the state of Florida, both legislative chambers successfully voted to redistrict their state, which would strip 4 seats from the Democrats. So this tit for tat seems like it's the new normal for the United States. And that is because we are a divided nation. This new redistricting rush is a reflection of the erupting polarization that's been building for years. Both sides find the other to be intolerable. And the redistricting that we have seen and will no doubt see more of are the desperate efforts to use every ounce of institutional procedure to secure a government that is acceptable to its citizens. Citizens that believe the opposing side represents an existential threat to their very lives. So this wave of redistricting, in my opinion, is really an attempt to preserve the consent of the governed within our current political system. Emphasis on the word current. I believe the rush to redistrict is a last gasp to prevent this massive political national division or this cold civil war from turning into a hot civil war. And we don't want that, now do we? The Paul Harrell program starts right now.
The Paul Harrell program.
All right, folks, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being with us. We're broadcasting from the great state of Arkansas here on LFA TV, as well as the Paul Harrell Program YouTube channel. Rob Spencer, my co-host, is back with us. Rob, good to have you, sir.
Paul, it is an honor to be on the show when I can. I apologize for times that pull me away. Has anything happened today?
Man, I know, right? It's crazy.
Oh my gosh, I look at the tabs here on things that we've got to talk about, and I'm excited because whether somebody would say, well, this redistricting is a poison pill that we're all taking here, I don't know. I mean, you can say that. You can say that, you know, the redistricting effort and the gerrymandering that has happened up in New England has been going on for years, and therefore the Republicans are finally just catching up with this stuff. I don't know. But it does place a huge highlight on why President Donald Trump is not talking about the SAVE Act right now, because I don't know that it is as important, because, you know, what if we're going to have an extra, how many? 20 seats?
When it could be, it depends on what the states do with this opportunity. Florida's leading the way.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you look at Mississippi. We're going to look at the maps here in a minute.
So California is going to cancel out Texas. We're going to go through all of this stuff. But yeah, it's interesting to me.
Well, what it does show you, though, is honestly the fact that they're ruling the current, this current iteration of the Voting Rights Act is unconstitutional. It also really means that these Democrat majorities in the House, for most of our lifetime, the times that it's happened, have really been, it really kind of been a myth. I mean, I'm not saying they didn't exist, but it's just been this manufactured. It's been a fake consent of the governed. And then there's a really interesting post by Jeremy Carl that talks about what this actually did, like the status quo. So you would have these southern districts that were based on race, and it's not just the South, but we're going to focus on the South a lot. The southern districts that were based on race, it also created more radical representatives from those districts that didn't care about their white constituents at all.
No. Yeah, you're right.
And so you may see, honestly, you may see more moderate Republicans occupying some of these new districts that get created as a result of this. And you say, well, is that good or is that bad? Well, it's certainly better than a Democrat, I'll tell you that. But we've got very, very conservative districts right now that are occupied by moderate Republicans. So it's really not going to change, in that regard. It's just going to be a huge problem for the Democrats to have, these to have majorities moving forward.
It certainly should, in my opinion, limit some of the AOCs of the world. Now, AOC is she's a beast that's going to be there, but I'm talking about her ilk, right? And
a beast.
She's a beast that's going to be. I mean, listen, she's a force, and it would be it's naive of us to say that she is not an impactful person. Somebody that would listen to AOC and be like energized and excited about this or that. Like I really, really question your intelligence, because when you've got and who am I, right? Like, who am I? But I'm just a dude in Arkansas on a conservative talk show here. We're sitting here talking, but I'm not a member of the United States Congress who used to be a bartender, The
other day she accused Deloitte of polluting rivers and poisoning people, and Deloitte is a tax firm. Ma'am, this is a Wendy's. Deloitte is like a tax and accounting consultant firm. I don't, but that's what she said the other day on the media. So,
dadgummit, I'm so tired of Walmart destroying our crops. I don't know. I don't know. I couldn't come up with a great example here. Oh, sorry, I dropped my water. Couldn't come up with a great example of how stupid that comment is. It's so stupid that I can't even find a good analogy for it. The AOCs of the world are going to exist. You're going to have the Somalian fraudulent individuals there in the state of Minnesota that are going to keep sending these Ilhan Omars to Congress. That's going to continue to happen unless there's a major change. Like, people think of Minnesota as this far left state. Paul, it's a 60-40 state.
And it's because they've got those, got a lot of rural areas.
It is, yeah. And so you've got some reasonable people in the state of Minnesota. Can you imagine? We're very fortunate here in this Christian conservative state known as Arkansas. But can you imagine being a conservative in a state like California, Oregon, Minnesota, where the crazies are in control? Mm-hmm. Like the lunatics are running the asylum in these states. And your voice doesn't count. It doesn't matter. I mean, the state of Minnesota is 65-35, right? And so 65 Democrat, 35% conservative, and they've got zero representation. The fairest of all the states was Virginia.
Yeah,
and Virginia comes in and says, "Screw that." Right, we're gonna outvote you.
Well, and then they're gonna, people would say, the other side playing devil's advocate here, they're gonna say, yeah, but look at Arkansas. You've got this Democrat stronghold of Little Rock, and yet that's in the 2nd congressional district of Arkansas, and it's a Republican occupying that because of But the point of the matter is, so what? Okay, if you've got control of the state legislature, you have an opportunity to change that if you want. But
sure.
But we are to the point now where we are in a cold civil war. Mm-hmm. And like I said at the top, both sides think the other one is intolerable. They're asking questions like, can we really live with these people? I mean, the left, and I'm going to try to steel man their argument, the left thinks that we would, murder trans people if we got the opportunity. I
they
guess.
believe it.
I think they believe that, right?
Yeah.
I think that they want to indoctrinate. I think their entire agenda depends on indoctrinating kids at a young age to continue their movement because they can't procreate. And I think that they are. I think that their ideology has to be defeated. I think it has to be made illegal for the good of our country.
I mean, it's a great point.
So what do you do with that? Well, I mean, within the confines of this current political system, what you do is you redistrict. You play the game and you redistrict, and you make sure that you get that your ideology is the one that triumphs in that state, and whatever party is the avenue or the vehicle to do that. That this is exactly what should have happened a long time ago. Honestly, this fair redistricting process, I could compare it to what would happen if we really got rid permanently of the silent filibuster. Because I said, what did the silent filibuster, what does it really accomplish? It prevents us from actually getting the government that we want. It prevents us from trying out the other side's ideas. We've never really had, I mean, the left does march left, but you never really get the carbon tax from years ago. They never actually got to implement full single-payer systems.
Yeah, there's been some advantages for conservatives.
Exactly. But then when we get into power, this filibuster prevents us from actually, what I would argue, fixing the country and actually putting these ideas into place to see if they actually work. But because of the filibuster, we can't do it. It's kind of the same thing now with this redistricting. The Civil Rights Act was preventing us from having states that truly having districts that truly represent the makeup of the states. And the courts were forcing, it was the courts that wrote many of these districts that are about to go away.
Paul, the strongest indicator that you can have that Democrats in their heart of hearts realize that the conservatives have a lot of good points. I don't know that the conservatives in their heart of hearts would say the Democrats have a lot of good points. Maybe the humanity aspect of illegal immigration and the crackdown of illegal immigration, there's the humanity side of it, right? This person was brought here when they were 4 years old. They've lived here for 30 years. They've made some attempts to there's the humanity side of it. But I'm going to say this. Why do unless you're in a heavy blue district, why do all the Democrats go to the center in an election year?
It's a great point.
Have you ever noticed it? It happens all of the time. If you're up for a re-election, look at their speeches right after they're elected versus when they're up for re-election. Everything that they say, everything that they do, every policy that they implement, every policy that they scream and say, look at what we did. It's all in the center. So they're left and they're pushing themselves to the center. Why? Because not because the center is where it's at, because they need a conservative or an independent who leans right to look at them and say, yeah, although I disagree with this and this and this and this and this, you know what? I like these ideas. So I'm going to go with them because those are sane, right? That's the sanity point, right?
It's one of the reasons why Obama won in 2008. He said things like, he was a centrist, and he said things like, I will not allow lobbyists to work in my White House. Said it.
There you go.
And you know what? Lobbyists immediately were hired by his White House.
Okay. Name a conservative who goes to the center to get reelected. Now, unless you're in a moderate district that's a purple area.
Yeah, like in New Jersey or something like that.
Correct. You don't have a choice, right? If you're a Glenn Youngkin trying to win the governor's race in a purple state, you've got to have some centrist ideas, which is why a lot of people are calling Glenn Youngkin a rhino, which is ridiculous. Like, you may disagree with some of the stuff that he says, but he's not a rhino.
He's in Virginia.
He's in Virginia. He did what he had to do there. But for the most part, can you name a conservative? Like, did Donald Trump come and speak to the middle when he was trying to get elected? No. No, he didn't. Maybe some of those things because he is a far more moderate person than Ronald Reagan was, or he's a far more moderate Republican than Ronald Reagan was. But no conservatives are pandering and saying, you know what, I'm pro-choice. I believe that. I believe that. It just, in my opinion, just doesn't happen.
Yeah, there may be,
there's a few one-off examples, Paul, but without fail, the Democrats who are far left move to the middle to try to get reelected because in their heart of hearts, in their mind of minds, they know that's what's sane.
That their base is crazy.
They know it. And the proof is in the pudding.
Okay, so if you're just joining us, the race-based districts that have been the law of the land have been ruled unconstitutional in a 6-3 decision. What do we got?
Just so you know, people are commenting on your orange jumpsuit style shirt. You look like sorry, Paul. Look like you escaped from jail. Wilson's great.
I'm sorry, brother.
Wilson, we love you,
I've
Wilson.
worn this shirt before. I've never gotten that comment, but okay, all right.
You know what? Maybe you need to wear blue underneath it. Because
lock me up. I guess it's because it's what is this, green?
Maybe
I don't know
is.
what it's showing up on. The
Paul,
cameras are weird.
Paul is wanted.
Democrats for years have sued over and over again to force states like Louisiana to create black majority districts. Louisiana's map has now been thrown out. If SCOTUS ends up gutting the act, a dozen Democrat districts could flip red overnight. This is CNN. We just got to listen to CNN's reporting of this. Listen.
They think 19 seats could be at risk all throughout the South. The question will be the timing. Is this a 2028 play? Is this a 2026 play? There are some primaries here coming up, not until later in the cycle. August 6th, there's one in Tennessee. That's Steve Cohen's seat. That's a majority minority district. That's an August 6th. The one Democratic seat there. The Jim Clyburn seat in South Carolina. That is the Democratic seat in South Carolina. That's a June 9th primary. Jamie, this shows you the ramifications long term for this ruling.
Absolutely. Just think about that number, 19 seats in play. And let's look at this politically. Laura, you talked about confusion going into this race. We're worried about voter suppression.
Okay, blah, blah, blah. I'll say this. You said that you said Trump's not really talking about the SAVE Act. This ruling with the SAVE Act, Rob, would be a game changer in a big way. At the same time that this ruling takes place today in the state of Florida, the Florida House and the Senate passed Ron DeSantis's new proposed redistricting map.
Boom.
And you see this here. You just have 4 Democrat districts would result from this. They'd be gaining 4 or 5 seats. And this is what happened. One of the state representatives in the chamber took to the floor with a megaphone.
Our democracy! This is a violation
Of course she's black.
of the Constitution! It is! It's a violation of the Constitution. I'm out of order, but y'all are doing illegal.
Representative Persons Mullica has waived close. The question now recurs on final passage of HB 1D. The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will proceed to vote. Have all members voted? Have all members voted?
Why isn't there a police officer that's just like doing a
sergeant at arms?
A form tackle right now?
The clerk will lock the machine and announce the vote.
83 yeas, 28 nays, Mr. Speaker.
Show the bill passes. Read the next bill.
None on the desk, Mr. Speaker.
All right, so we had
there we
applause.
go.
So they know what time it is. They know exactly what game this is. And again, I want to reiterate, this is an attempt to preserve the current system we have. Mm-hmm. That's really what this is. It's to let's drop the pretending, let's try to preserve the current system we have because this is necessary. I think it's like a last gasp.
Well, I think first of all, let me just say this. Quick correction. Wilson, in our comments, is a female. Her name is Wanda. I know you don't monitor the chat, but I monitor the chat. Her name is... When I think of Wilson, I think of from Home Improvement. You remember Wilson?
Yeah.
Right across the fence?
Hey, neighbor.
Hey, howdy, neighbor. And so sorry about that, Wanda Wilson. Appreciate you in our chats. I want to say this. If you were to sit and say, hey, a woman interrupted the announcement of the vote in this state of Florida legislator. A woman announced it. She is literally straight from Central Casting.
Yeah.
Okay. She is a loud, somewhat overweight black woman who has a pink megaphone. And if you're our listening audience, she has a pink megaphone.
I don't know if she's overweight, but
she got a little bit of a gut here. Listen, I'm not trying to body shame her.
Okay,
I
go
just
ahead.
tried to tell you that.
All right,
Like,
okay.
look, you know,
All right.
she's not.
go.
I don't think she's got diabetes problems, but I will say that she is Central Casting, in my opinion, of who you would expect this to be. Now, I'm not trying to say just because she's black. I'm just trying to say that the loudest people always in a room are your Democratic liberal women.
Yeah, there you
Okay?
go.
I don't know that liberal women have any value. Liberal men have very little, if any, value, right? Like if the floods and the hurricanes and all that stuff coming, or anybody going and hiding with their liberal men? Anybody going up there like, please protect us, liberal man? Like nobody is looking to a liberal man for protection. And nobody is looking to a liberal woman to preach to us about our sense of virtue.
Somebody was saying the other day, if you had a button to push and it was, we'll keep the Mexicans, but get rid of the liberal women, would you take? Would you
Oh,
take?
heck yeah. I'll take the Mexicans over the liberal women any day.
I thought of you when I saw that meme.
Oh, yeah. The big, I love that all they got to go, but the big booty Latinas can stay.
Here is, so that was happening on the Florida side, the House side over in Florida. Over on the Senate side, 1 second, where's
I've got if you ever watch this thing, I was watching a clip that you posted today, and it looked like I was picking my nose. I don't pick my nose on the show. I got to do a better job at trimming my nose or my mustache under my nose because it's constantly itching. I am not picking my nose.
It's a real
for
problem.
our viewing audience.
Over on the
you.
Senate side, they passed the new redistricting bill as well.
Okay, so and Ron DeSantis will sign this as soon as it gets
This
to
is
his
his
desk.
idea.
Bill passes.
Let me see if we
Before I
can.
recognize, I'd like the board to record the vote.
21 yeas, 17 nays, Mr. President.
So the bill passes.
No, there's not as much fanfare, not as much
Well,
protest as in
but
the
that's
House.
honestly that's the same way as it is
Yeah.
in the United States Congress.
That's what
the
happens.
Senate is tamer.
Senator Marsha Blackburn, I urge our state legislator from Tennessee, I urge our state legislator to reconvene to redistrict another Republican seat in Memphis. It's essential to cement real Donald Trump's agenda and the golden age of America. I vowed to keep Tennessee a red state. As a governor, I'll do everything I can to make this map a reality.
Well, let me ask you this, Paul. As Memphis is very close to us, what value does Memphis have to the state of Tennessee?
It is I think generally speaking, city of Memphis is a problem. I mean, that's why the National Guard had to go there. And the reason it's a problem is because it's been ruled by Democrats for 70 years.
It's got an international airport, and I put that in quotes, international airport.
Oh, it's like
they
the
don't
worst.
fly.
It's the worst. It's the worst airport. I mean, I don't know if it's got to be one of the. I haven't been to all the airports in America. It's got to be one of the worst airports
It's
in
ridiculous.
the country. I mean,
It's
it is.
awful.
It's disgusting.
Yeah, it's awful. It's disgusting. It's not a great airport at all. We go there because out of necessity, because
Yeah.
it's our closest one. We can either go there or to a much smaller municipal airport, even though it's not a municipal airport. It's virtually just one step above it, I guess you would say, and that's Little Rock. You could go to St. Louis. Anyway, we have just a little municipal airport here in our hometown, but we've got to go to Memphis to fly anywhere. And it just seems like Memphis doesn't have direct flights to anywhere. They're always
Correct.
connecting flights to something, Unless you're going to Dallas, they got plenty of Dallas flights. But then when you look at if the city of Memphis birthplace of the rock and roll, home of the blues. But if you were to take the city of Memphis out of the state of Tennessee, would they notice? And if they did notice, would it be negative? I don't think that there's any negative connotation for removing this rotten, vile, corrupt city that is Memphis. The corruption in the city of Memphis, we hear about it more than anybody else does in the United States, right? Like all the people in this Mid-South area here, we hear about the absolute corruption that has gone on there. And they were so desperate for police officers that they have allowed felons to be police officers.
They had gang members, that were beating up that guy a couple of years ago. They were former gang members that somehow made it onto the force.
Beat the hell out of this guy, beat him to death on camera. And what did they get for it? Nothing. As far as I know, they're still working, Paul, and maybe I'm misremembering this, but I can tell you this: they were not sentenced to murder, which is what they should have been, because they beat this dude to death on camera for a traffic violation. Now, that's what you get when you have felons for police officers, because you're so desperate for police officers.
Well, if you go watch the video, I mean, when we found out that they were former gang, or some of them were former gang members, the style of fighting, the way they were holding that guy up, I mean, it was like
beat the hell out of them.
Yeah, it was like a gangster movie, except they were wearing cop uniforms.
Name another 19-year-old, 20-year-old, however old he was, a healthy, physically fit individual that would be beaten to death, and it happened on camera. And they were, do some research on it here. Were they relieved of duty? I don't know. Maybe they were, but they're not in prison, to the best of my knowledge. And I can tell you this, man. If I'm a Tennessean and I am looking at what value,
I mean, this is the
area of Memphis.
To your point, this is just the only thing. This is what I googled: Memphis officers, gang members. A federal judge ordered a new trial for former Memphis officers convicted in the 2023 beating death of Tyree Nichols after revealing suspicions that at least one officer was in a gang and that the department was, quote, infiltrated to the top with gang members, end quote. These officers were part of a now disbanded Scorpion unit described in lawsuits as a gang of vigilantes.
Listen to what that says. You have literal gang members on your police department. Open up a big ass hole and dump the city of Memphis. I don't care that Elvis is from there.
Yeah.
Get rid of the city of Memphis.
Okay, all right. Well, we're not going into entire civilizations being annihilated.
I'm kidding.
Okay, I know you're it's hyperbole, but to your point, we started this with Marsha Blackburn saying we got to redistrict. I think if it's and the fact is, when the National Guard went there were citizens that were living in these conditions that were very thankful.
Yeah,
and they were very grateful that their kids could walk down the street.
Their kids can't even play in the yard in Memphis.
So that would
you want to have a voice? You want to tell me you deserve a voice?
I know.
When your damn city, you can't even have people send their kids out to play catch in the yard or play basketball in the driveway because your city is so dangerous, but you need a voice? How about you worry about your governance there in the city before you send a representative to Congress, specifically to the United States House of Representatives? You want to tell me that you deserve a voice? Your city is vile. And it had to have the National Guard be brought in to where somebody could actually walk down the street without being murdered.
You're going full League of Shadows.
I can't stand it, man. I can't stand the ridiculous
North
Little Rock.
Ra's al Ghul over here.
Oh my God, man.
The city of Memphis' time has come. No, but so the point is, it's a Republican state. You now have the power, folks over there in Tennessee. You have the power.
Get rid of it.
And you can get rid of it, and you can, and this is where we're at. and let Illinois do what they're going to do. Somebody was saying, well, what about Illinois? Look at this. Okay, so they're saying Illinois. We only have what? Like,
Illinois is the worst.
we've only got like 2 Republican districts in Illinois anyway.
Yeah, do it.
Somebody was saying if Republicans aggressively gerrymander the South and eliminate up to 10 Democratic seats under a narrowed Voting Rights Act, Democrats could become desperate and respond with absurd maps in blue states. Well, it would have to be absurd because they're already absurd. Do you see this proposed map? And look, all lines lead to Chicago.
Yeah.
Look, all of the lines right here leading to Chicago. And you know what? If they do that, so what? Mm-hmm. Because we'll just
get rid of them.
We'll just redistrict even harder, Democrats, because it's insane. Now, this is what we're talking about here. Potential map of the South without the Voting Rights Act restrictions per the New York Times. Current map, Republican 65, Democrat 24. Potential map, Republican 77, Democrats 12.
If
we're just talking about the South. Now, notice our state of Arkansas is not even on this map because we've got 4 districts, congressional districts, and they're all Republican, solidly Republican. There may be like a little chance that that District 2 could swing Democrat someday, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
This is a golden opportunity for these states. Louisiana need to call a special session. I don't know if your legislature is part-time, full-time. I don't know about Mississippi. I'm assuming all of you are probably part-time legislators. These governors got to call a special session or the next opportunity they get to redistrict. Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. Obviously, Florida's already taken care of business. But look at the difference that you could have. I mean, would you just look at this Mississippi district right here? That is it's a giant.
Well, that would be Jackson, Mississippi. That's Tupelo.
Yep.
That is in
Tupelo.
western. Yeah, that is in western. These are very high. There's a lot of blacks that live in the western district there, and Jackson, Mississippi is on the list of one of the most dangerous.
Absolutely,
cities
it is. Absolutely, is. Jackson is a city. When you are on I-55 and you're going down to the Gulf, which I'm going to be doing here in about 5 weeks, it is a city that you accelerate through.
Yeah,
you don't plan to stop there. Matter of fact, there is a very affluent community, and I can't remember the name, right outside of Jackson on the north side, and it is beautiful. It is. I can't remember the town's name, but like they have building codes. It's one of those where they have like, if you want to have like, let's say you have a fast food restaurant, it doesn't look like a fast food restaurant. You're not allowed to do that there. The building actually has to conform to some sort of city standards, and it's clearly where everybody that cared about their safety and has money went.
Yeah, they just
white flight or whatever you call it.
Yeah,
it's right north of Jackson. So if you got to stop on 55 to go to the bathroom or get some food or anything, that's where you do it. And then when you hit the Jackson city limits, you just accelerate through the city. That's what I do. I want nothing to do with it.
Yeah, the GPS one, it'll try to, depending on which way you go from Arkansas, if you're trying to go down to, say, the Panhandle of Florida or Gulf Shores, Alabama, it will try to take you through sometimes Jackson, Mississippi. There's newer routes where it'll go through Alabama and you can go down through Birmingham.
Yeah.
Which, let's talk about Birmingham.
It's
put it in the same vein.
Yeah, I mean,
Birmingham,
and look
Alabama.
What we got. I mean, look at that district. There's these 2 districts in Alabama there.
That's where they are, man. That's where the crime is, and that's where you don't want to stop it. Now, like, am I gonna stop if I'm driving through Birmingham, Alabama, Jackson, Mississippi, Memphis, Tennessee? All 3 of those are red states, but it's blue cities. Do you think I'm driving through there, stopping at midnight, and leaving my wife in the vehicle while I go inside the gas station to get a cup of coffee or something? Hell to the no. There's no way I'm doing that stuff, because those are dangerous cities, because the city government cannot properly govern their constituents. They can't police them properly. They can't pass legislation that helps them police properly. They are rotten to the core. And you want to send a representative to represent the entire United States?
From those areas.
How dare you?
Well, and their
How
ideas,
dare you sit there with a straight face and tell me that?
Yeah, and their ideas that they carry with them to Washington, D.C., that they think are going to solve their problems are all socialist or outright communistic. And so to the point about these blue areas that you see on your screen here as the map exists currently, they're producing some of the more liberal, like radical Democrats, whereas and ones that really just they know that they know that they're not going to have any competition at all. By the way these are drawn, and again, these are largely drawn by the courts, certainly enforced by the courts that have a say in protecting these districts.
Alabama is a 70-30 state.
It makes no sense.
They are one of the most conservative states in the entire United States.
And where's the Southern Poverty Law Center? Alabama.
Right there. And so what that's what we're seeing. In Georgia, I guess that blue district, I've never really even thought about where Fulton County is. I guess that's Fulton County in Georgia.
Well, where's Atlanta? Isn't Atlanta more north?
I thought it was.
Yeah,
is that where that is, like that big,
I think
big area
that's going to be Atlanta right
so
there.
So that's southern Georgia.
So look, so Atlanta will stay blue.
It's not going to do that. But you think that's like one of the highest population areas in the entire state there. But regardless, my whole point of it is I'm not trying to say that places from minority areas shouldn't have representation. That's not what I'm saying whatsoever. But if you are a predominantly minority area and you can't properly govern your area, how dare you say you need representation in like sweep your own porch before you try to clean the rest of the country?
Yeah, but I mean, think about it where we are now. It's 2026, and the Democrat position is, okay, let's look at a state, and when it comes to apportionment, let's draw a district. Let's go find the minorities, and let's only draw the district around where those minorities are. Not using natural geographic boundaries, or not using, trying to get to some sort of right angles where you can. Like, no, we're abandoning that. We're just literally going to look at the color of your skin, where you live, and we're going to draw. And that's why
that's what Louisiana was doing. Yeah,
I mean, that's why Louisiana looks so ridiculous. Do you see? You can see it. The folks can't.
Yeah.
You see this district, this blue district in Louisiana that just goes like totally diagonal across the state. It's ridiculous.
At least give them credit for saying we did it so that we could have more black representation there. And you're like, okay, well, thank you. That gives the Supreme Court something to strike down here.
Yeah, and
what they did today.
Yeah. All of this also is like a snapshot of like, will you quit calling us racist now? The answer is no. Okay, well then what does it even matter? I mean, because that they're going to call you racist whether or not you have representation or not, right? Because that hasn't stopped.
Call me
right?
racist. I don't care.
They're creating racial crimes. They're creating false flag racial hate crimes, and then blaming it on us. And I've got that video pulled, by the way, that you sent me, that TikTok video about how all of those stats about right wing violence are totally made up.
Right-wing violence is a myth.
But folks, I mean, I think this is something to celebrate today. Other people are doing it, and so.
You're muted on the video.
It says the South. The South is out. So there's going to be some.
I'm glad it didn't say the South will rise again.
Well, I am not going to lie and say that phrase didn't pop into my mind today. Just in terms of how it is. This situation is rather hilarious to me.
So there are so many black citizens of the United States who have awakened and left the plantation known as the Democratic Party. They have left them. And what do we do on the conservative side? We welcome them with open arms. I will never forget a New York Times journalist, I'm going to put that in quotes, who did an undercover study. And here's what he did. He went into a restaurant, Paul, and he tried to engage with people who were sitting around, and he filmed it. And he was wearing, a hoodie and baggy clothes, and it was a black, dark hoodie and all of that stuff. And he said he, quote, spoke with a black accent. Okay? Did all of that. And he reported about how everybody was just very non-communicative with him. They didn't want to talk to him, right? They kept him at arm's length. And so what he did, he then goes in as still a black man, but he's very well trimmed, wearing a nice suit, and he sat in the exact same restaurant and had conversations. And he goes, you know what? Everybody was nicer to me. Everybody was more engaging in the conversation because I didn't, quote, look black. Let's point out the obvious, sir. Your skin color never changed. Your skin color never changed. So if they were racist like you're trying to say they are, they wouldn't have talked to you no matter what the hell you were wearing. They wouldn't have engaged with you because you didn't, quote, look black. They wouldn't have even cared. So that article, I remember, this has been several years ago, it was up for about 48 hours. And the blistering that he took in the comments, they deleted it.
Wow.
Can't find it anymore.
So it's not the color of the skin, it's the equipment you're wearing.
Are you a threat or not?
Yes.
You're a husband and a father. I am a husband and a father. I am always, when you are out in public with your lovely wife and child, what are you doing? You are assessing possible threats.
Constantly, actually.
Constantly. Same thing for me. My beautiful wife, when we go out in public, she is not like a lot of wives. She is actually looking around. She is assessing threats as well, but she knows that she doesn't have to if she's with me. I am looking. I am always, if I am with my children, I'm having an engaging conversation. But what do I do at a restaurant? No. You're going to sit on the other table, on the other side of the table. I'm not sitting with my back to the door. I got to be able to see who's coming in and out of this restaurant at all times. We are assessing threats. They saw someone who looked like a, quote, gangster. I don't know what their thought process was, whatever they saw, and assessed this young man, African-American, dressed in, thuggish gear, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, a hoodie's not thuggish, but that's the way he described it, versus someone who's well-dressed. And it had a totally different reaction. And I'm like, if your assessment was true, it wouldn't have mattered what you were wearing.
Yep.
Because your skin color didn't change.
Well, speaking of skin color, the first black president, Barack Obama, he's very upset.
He's upset. He can't have it.
You want to read it?
His legacy is gone. All right, here we go. Barack. Today's Supreme Court decision effectively guts a key pillar of the Voting Rights Act, freeing state legislators to gerrymander legislative districts to systematically dilute and weaken the voting power of racial minorities, so long as they do it under the guise of partisanship rather than explicit racial bias. And it serves as just one more example of how a majority of our current court seems intent on abandoning its vital role in ensuring equal participation in our democracy and protect the voting rights protecting the rights of minority groups against majority overreach. The good news is that such setbacks can be overcome, but they will only happen if citizens across the country who cherish our democracy democratic ideals continue to mobilize and vote in record numbers, not just in upcoming midterms or high-profile races, but in every election at every level.
So this is Barack Obama, a man who manufactures intelligence to go after Republicans he doesn't like, to sick the intel oligarchy on the right. He's a guy who's now stumping for, the gerrymandering of districts only based on race. A guy that wants, just like Biden did, a porous border where we are demographically totally changed as a country. And when we finally step up, fight back, do something about it, or in this case, a Supreme Court decision goes our way, he claims this is an attack against our democracy. When in reality, this is about states with a capital S that are going to use the power the people have given them to make sure that their federal representation best aligns with their wishes. And if you don't like it, and if Democrats in Christian red states don't like it,
Yeah.
They need to win elections at the state level. And if they can't, well, guess what? Your representation in D.C. isn't going to be as voluminous as you would like. And that's why this is really good. This is a consolidation. We're going to quit pretending as a country. This is a consolidation of where everybody stands. And I think it's fine. And if we lose a seat in Illinois, Illinois is already gerrymandered anyway. If we lose more seats in California,
maybe maybe the people in these states, the conservatives in these states, rise up. Because I don't know that you could ever convince me that if every single solitary adult, 18 and older, was polled, do you align more with conservative values or Democratic values? Or the Democrat side, liberal values. You couldn't convince me that there are more liberals in the United States than there are conservatives.
There are not, and you just look at the trans issue, look at the voting rights issue right now, which is an 80-20 issue. And that brings me to the thing, like with the whole California stuff. If we'll fix our elections, the conservatives in states like California will start to gain ground if you can fix elections. Here's Hakeem Jeffries. He called for a press conference, and this is what Temu Obama or Dollar Store Obama had to say.
Wait a minute.
What do we got?
LFG, your whining is music to my ears. I've not seen this video, so I'm extremely excited. Is he going to be whining?
Let's listen.
Toward a more perfect union. And now we're at a point where affirmative action is gone, diversity is gone, equity gone, inclusion gone, racial tolerance gone.
Yeah, so just so you know, normally they would zoom in on this, but these are all potentially these are I guess the Black Caucus. These are black congressmen. So they're framing this shot in the wide angle so you see all of the people that may actually be gone. He says we're not going anywhere in the end. Actually, you are going somewhere.
You're going to be gone.
Not going to be in office.
Not going to listen. I'll have lunch any day with Byron Donalds, black conservative.
Yeah, running for governor.
Yeah, running for governor of Florida here. Would you have lunch with any of these individuals? I mean, obviously in our job,
I might.
Probably would.
But they wouldn't have lunch with me.
They would.
They wouldn't have lunch. Not just because of what we do, but because of what we look like.
I'm saying not like if our job was set aside, would you want to spend time with any of these individuals if we were not doing what we did? In my opinion, I just. Rashida Tlaib, I don't know if she's even on there. She's not black, whatever color she is. I don't know whatever race she is. She's isn't she the whatever Palestinian? She's Palestinian.
Would she be considered a woman of color by their
standards? I don't know what she is, but I can tell you this: I don't want to have lunch with her. I don't want to have lunch with her because I wouldn't want to waste my time.
And this is the issue I zeroed in on at the top of the show.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to waste my time spending time with someone who is so ideologically rotten that I don't see how we could ever find common ground.
And she would feel the same about us.
One of my dearest friends is a far left liberal, and when I see him, I hug him every time. We are good friends. He knows I'm conservative, and I know he's a liberal. But he is a person who 100% can't stand Trump, hates him, thinks Barack Obama is the second coming of Jesus. But he's also a reasonable enough person to say, I'm not going to take Rob's political views and make it personal. I'm not going to try to kill Rob, right? He is still my friend. He is still my friend who I love.
You act like you're doing me a favor because you decided not to kill me.
I saw him in February. I saw this person I'm talking about. I won't mention him on the show. But I saw him in February, and I hadn't seen him in a year, and just gave him the biggest hug. And I'm like, where is that? Where is that? Going back to your point at the top of the show, like where is that kind of stuff? These individuals, to the best of my knowledge, don't have that in them.
Yeah.
Hakeem Jeffries does not want to coexist. He wants to rule.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think Republicans are coming to that same conclusion. Like we talked about this yesterday.
Yeah.
Can you coexist with these two sides? And this redistricting is an effort to use every institutional power that we have to prevent what happens if if people just give up on the system. That's why this is a good thing. But I want to finish his comments here.
Inclusion gone, racial tolerance gone, the Voting Rights Act largely gone.
Oh, shut up.
But guess what, extremists? We're still here, and we're not going anywhere.
Actually, yes, you probably are.
Maybe many of you are.
If the southern states, you're not going to be in D.C. anymore. So,
I love our chat.
So
our chat is the best. They're talking about like, hey, would you have lunch with Clarence Thomas? Every day, like I don't know that I could get there fast enough.
I would say like the only reason I would have lunch with some of these people, like if I had the opportunity, would be to honestly try to call out the wickedness of the Democrat Party in a way that they would understand the sinfulness of it all. Not that we're sinless on our side. That's certainly not the case. But I think so many of these people don't actually know about the gospel. I think they're hostile towards it. So I'd want them to hear the good news. The bad news that you're a sinner, but the good news is there's hope.
Not all of them were celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, but many of them said nothing.
Oh yeah, on that.
Yeah, many of them said nothing to the ones who were celebrating it.
Hold that thought because I've got something on that. I think Hakeem Jeffrey said something that was just outrageous. Governor Kathy Hochul, this is the governor of New York. The Supreme Court has been chipping away.
Hold on, my camera is apparently froze.
Oh, it sure is.
Yep.
You're all froze up.
Thank you, chat. Thank you, Wanda. You helped us in the chat.
If you want to go to the other side there, on the other side of the table.
Oh, am I froze? Okay.
I think you're froze. All
right, I'm going to move over.
But so here we can do this. So Kathy Hochul, the Supreme Court has been chipping away at our elections for years. It is clearly carrying out Donald Trump's will with this decision. New York has always led the fight for voting rights and will lead again. To where somebody named Andrew Follett says, you literally drew this atrocity. These people, look at this district. This is a New York congressional district. Yeah, they don't have a leg to stand on here, folks. And that's why the Republicans just need to go. They need to put the pedal to the metal, and they need to they need to make these districts, they're yours for the taking. You have the power. It's time now to use that hard power. Just move a little to your left. There, you're good, right there. So that's what needs to happen here. Rob, welcome back.
I'm back. Wait a minute. I'm back.
Welcome back.
And I'm back.
All right. I know you've got to go here in 10, 15 minutes, something like that.
In there. I got to go pick up Bucky Boy.
Okay. So
my lab.
So real quick, I want to get through some more of these though, because this is exciting. All right. This is a really good analogy. So Jeremy Carl, who did not get that nomination in the State Department because because he wrote a book about the unprotected class, specifically talking about white people, and pointing all that out. But this is incredible. He says, a few underrated follow-ups from this voting rights decision. He says, it will eliminate a lot of the very worst members of Congress because members elected from majority-minority districts conspicuously tended to ignore the interests of white voters in their districts and to engage in corrupt politics.
Could care less.
Number two, it will also tend to draw more moderately Republican districts as opposed to very conservative GOP districts, as more minority voters are distributed to those districts. But, he says, I think the practical effects of this will be somewhat muted because there are many GOP congressmen from very conservative districts that already did not vote conservatively. Number three, when combined with 2032 redistricting coming up in the census in 2030, that will see another 10 or so districts move from blue states to red states. It makes the math for a Democrat House majority much more challenging.
Sure.
Even with the GOP House majority, the Democrats already hold 46 of the 69 House seats that were decided by 10 points or less, so their possibilities for durable gains are already kind of small. So this is what a game changer this decision is. Hang on, I keep going.
Okay.
Even a wave election right now would probably only net Democrats a number of seats in the low 20s. That level of gain will be completely wiped out by the number of seats changing hands due to this voting rights decision and the subsequent 2032 redistricting. Number 4, the bottom line. This is the first time we've had fair electoral maps for the GOP in decades. If we combine this with electoral reforms like the SAVE Act, it will be very, very difficult for Democrats to have a durable House majority at any time in the 2030s. By contrast, even in moderately good elections for the GOP in the 2030s, we could see very sizable House majorities, which, if combined with filibuster reform, could actually leave the GOP with its first true working congressional majorities in my lifetime. In summary, this is a huge win for the GOP, for fair elections, and for the United States as a whole.
Wow, I mean, there's a mouthful there, and when you're talking about the race to the bottom with this redistricting, there is a silver lining here. And that might be that we get the radicals gone. And ultimately, if I take anything away from his 4 points there, 4 or 5, whatever it was, if you can get rid of the extreme radicals who are not really ever voting in the interest of their true overall constituencies, they were elected because they had a D after their name, right? And that's ultimately the only reason that they were elected. And then they go and they say, hey, I know better than the middle. I'm going to be far, far left with it. I also think that, conversely, we can't sit here and embrace the far right. But if I'm being truthful, who is the far right of the conservative party that is elected right now in Congress, either on the House or in the Senate? Who would you sit here and say is the far right, the crazy?
That's actually
the radical?
A really good point. I mean,
I don't know that there is. Like right now, the left hates Brandon Gill. That dude is slaying the Democrats right now. When we didn't pull this for the show, but if you've not seen the takedown that he does of the pro-abortionist,
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he goes through there's like 3 or 4 different types of methods of abortion. He's like, do you prefer that method?
It was a masterful takedown. Masterful takedown.
He never goes there with her. He never, and so that kind of stuff right there is like, can we clone the Brandon Gills? No, he's not the extreme of our party. No, he's not.
If the far right in this country were really in control right now, you would have mass deportations, like legitimate mass deportations. If the far right. Now, I know they're going to say Trump is far right, but he's actually far. If it was far right, we wouldn't have pulled out of Minnesota.
Sure. Well, I mean, like so to your point, every DACA recipient has to file, and they have to file, like we know their address and all of that stuff because they have to file for recertification every 2 years for DACA. So you're saying, to your point, if the far right was in control, every one of them, they would just show up at their house tomorrow.
Yes.
Be like, you're in this country illegally. I don't care that you have some sort of protected status.
Exactly.
You're gone. You're gone.
That's what. Yeah. So I'm saying even right now, like it's
and we're not doing that.
Now, I mean, we've got
so the far right is not in control.
There's some good messaging that's going on, but in terms of practical politics, like Donald Trump with a King speech yesterday, when Donald Trump said that America is not an idea, essentially, and that we come from, that if it wasn't for our English cousins this Anglo-Saxon pride and ingenuity, we wouldn't have the country we have today. That's actually fantastic. Really love the messaging there.
It's interesting to me that King Charles, and of course that's the soundbite that's going around because the Democratic Party had their standing ovation moment there that they loved it, and that is talking about how, and it was the very end of his speech, talking about how there's limits and checks and balances on the executive branch. Coming from a king. Now, we all know that the king is not in control there, but he's King Charles. Yeah. It's important.
But he could be.
He could be. I think honestly, if you go against the crown, the full weight of you, it'd be like going against BlackRock or Vanguard here in
I mean,
States.
they're in more. I mean, it's so funny. Like they're in control of things over there. The Crown is. It's perfect actually if you think about it. All the democracy's rising, and the Crown says, "Well, let's still maintain our control, but we'll just be symbolic, or we'll get the people to think that we're symbolic."
Sure.
I mean, it's genius actually.
Yeah.
When you're not really symbolic.
And so, someone would say that he seemingly took a shot at Donald Trump. Well, Donald Trump didn't take the bait. He gave a very gracious and complimentary speech to King Charles. And so it's going to be interesting. I know that, I know he had some health issues. Plus, he's later in life here. So it's going to be... I'll be interested to see how things change whenever he moves on or passes on, and his son William takes over. That'll because we don't know what their political leanings are.
Right.
For the most part, they live in the center, which is smart, right? If you want to hide, you got to hide in the center. You can't hide in the extremes. So I don't know that, but I will say this because this was a meme going around and we all saw it. The irony of the Democrats who have been screaming no kings for months and months and months and even years, giving a standing ovation to a king. Can you think of anything more Democrat than that?
No, because it's just highlighting that they don't have principles, at all. That we've thrown this up on the screen there. I know your screen is now taken away from you, but this is a map of Missouri. Sorry, Eric, if you're listening.
What? I can see it now.
It is. You could easily draw an 8-0 congressional map. This is Christian Hines, an 8-0 congressional map in Missouri, where every district voted for Trump by at least 12 points. Republicans don't have to just settle for dismantling the Kansas City district. They can destroy the St. Louis one as well. With Callis no longer ensuring that Democrats get free congressional seats based on race, there's no reason to keep this district intact any longer. Just to think that most of our lifetimes, because of this interpretation of the Voting Rights Act, to putting it that way, like in the South and in the Midwest, they get seats as some form of electoral affirmative action, and now that's gone.
Right.
It's incredible.
Think about this. Are we going to get to where each state is just going to look how it votes for president, right? So in the state of Arkansas, we're going to vote for Republicans here. It's going to be a conservative state. The state of Missouri, same way, right? I mean, they're less conservative us. There may be a 60-40 or 55-45, state, because you have those strongholds of Kansas City and St. Louis, which are poorly run cities in it. Like we're going full circle back to that.
League of Shadows. St. Louis, your time has come.
Oh, I love my Cardinals, so it's hard for me to go that route. But anyway, think about that. So Illinois, who doesn't what do they got? 1, 2 conservatives there. Like, we're going to eliminate those. It'd be interesting for somebody to go and say, hey, how many Democrat representatives are coming from red states and how many Republican representatives are coming from blue states, and whether that would be an advantage to conservatives. I don't know what the answer to that is. Maybe somebody can tell us in our comments, but I don't think that this is good. I really don't. I think
when you say you don't think it's good, what do you mean by that?
Because I don't think it's good
because I can foresee a map. I mean that if you just look at what the map is it's gonna look like. Blue on the coasts, maybe New Mexico and Colorado are blue, so there'll be that hump there. It'll be a sea of red. Illinois. And then New England is blue, and everything is red. And then you're going to have people move. The moving is going to continue. These people, these disaffected conservatives in Illinois are going to move out into these more prosperous. And I say more prosperous, but I mean just where you don't have to put up with the woke sex religion and the insanity. Where you move to a place where we hope these red states believe in the Bill of Rights. But then you're looking at a country that is just more divided than we have ever been, I mean, arguably since the Civil War.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say two things. Number one, why this matters, why this is so important, is we're talking about what Democrats will do once they get back in power.
Yes.
Or if they get back in power, right? If they get back in power, especially in the House, we're going to immediately see an impeachment. They're already rallying here, okay? They're not going, in my opinion, they're not going to get an impeachment through in the Senate because of the 60-40 rule, but you never know. Like, what if all of this representation here and the Democrats start getting a lot of momentum, they pass laws, and they retake the Senate? I don't think that they're going to be able to do that, but you never know. But anyway, it matters because I think that I don't think that the Democrats truly thought Trump could win in 2024 because of all the indictments and all of that stuff. I think that they say that Kamala Harris was legitimately surprised she lost. Yeah, shocked that she lost. And I was like, did you not see polling? Because for the first time in Trump's 3 runs for president, he was actually polling ahead.
Yeah.
Right.
And she had to know she was losing after Butler. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Butler happened. You're going to lose, man.
Well, there were Democrat pundits went on there and just said, well, congratulations, Donald Trump just won the presidency because of this failed assassination attempt. And they meant it sort of like begrudgingly, but at the same time it was true.
No, I mean, historically speaking, that's when it was over.
He stood up. He gave us the most badass photo of the 20th century, in my opinion, which was standing 21st century, sorry. Yeah, of the 21st century, the dude standing up, fight, after his ear was just shot, and there were however many shots Crooks got off there. He got off several shots. So anyway, it's important because of that. But the reason that I say that it's bad is motive. I don't like motive of a power grab being. I don't like power grabbing being the motive.
I know.
In my opinion, for this stuff to happen, it needs to be because it's the right thing to do.
I know, and I get that, and that is our weak. I'm just going to say this right now. Maybe it's our goodness, but it is our side's weakness.
Yeah,
because
we play fair
because they're not going to play fair, and I feel the same way with this whole James Comey thing. Like 80, yeah, I know. Look, I don't really care how you go after a James Comey. This guy is a criminal. This guy, I don't care if you have to Al Capone him. I don't care if you have to get him on tax fraud. And the reason is because if they do get back in power, Rob, they're coming for every single one of us. They're coming for our very way of life.
Yeah, they were already doing it,
right?
Paul.
So I get it. Like I don't. Yeah. When I was writing the monologue at the top, I was trying to convey, where people really are, and people are up at a point where they look at the other side and they say, I can't coexist with you. I don't, I mean, you take California, okay, but like I've got to do everything I can to put up a bulwark around your craziness, your insanity, and I don't want to have anything to do with you because I don't think we can coexist. Because if you go a few steps further than that, you get to a point where the oppression is so great that things get kinetic. And we don't want things to get kinetic, right? And we don't want that to happen. And so that's why this consolidation of power in these red states saying, okay, now we're going to redistrict everything to the best of our ability and let the Democrats do it as well. I think we can sit here and say, well, it makes us uncomfortable that this is what it's come to, but what's the alternative? Yeah. The alternative is, it's not something I really even want to think about. So
I agree with that. And I also think that, when all the chips are in the middle, you got to lay all your cards on the table. And if redistricting is all of our cards to try to counteract evil, it's not about power. It's about doing the right thing on the conservative side. Democrats want power. They just do not deny yourself. The only reason that the Minnesota fraud was exposed was because an independent journalist went around there and found the Quality Leering Center, and Tim Walz embarrassingly doing a victory lap after there's been some indictments. There's some estimates that it's as low as 160 or as much as $168 billion worth of fraud that was committed last year. I think that that's a very, very low number. I think that it's closer to hundreds of billions of dollars, where 500 billion, maybe even close to $1 trillion worth of fraud that is being committed every day. Mm-hmm. We saw that here locally, and I won't get too strong in the example here because this person is actually under indictment right now, but they were committing insurance fraud where they were charging for occupational therapy to insurance that they were not doing. Well, that's just one example, and they were not a Somalian, by the way, and this person had doctor in front of their name.
Yeah.
Right? And so they were arrested for something else. But you're talking about a small thing. That's frauding the government. That's not, and I'm not trying to say fraud is good, but that's not trying to fraud a private company. That's frauding the government, which is frauding the taxpayers, which means we all have a say in it. And that fraud level, I would say, is 500 billion or more, and probably closer to $1 trillion per year. Mm-hmm. If you really got down to the nuts and bolts of it. Can you alleviate all of it? No, that's naive to think that you can. DOJ was just on the cusp of finding something.
Yeah, you're right about that.
And it was a disappointment that we didn't go all the way through. Anyway,
I know you got a jet.
Yeah, I got to go. I got to go pick up my Bucky boy from daycare.
Yes,
so I've got a Labrador.
This is a dog, not This is a dog.
Boy. Yeah, don't you talk bad about my Bucky
I'm not.
boy.
I'm not. I'm just letting everybody know. By the way, before you go, did you get a chance to see what your lower third said today?
No, I didn't even see it. What does it say?
Hang on, wait 10 seconds for it to catch up.
All right, let's see what it says.
I can't believe
really good.
I can't believe you didn't notice. We changed it from Indian aroma connoisseur to, well, I changed it, but I was wanting you to notice, but you haven't noticed, and so now it's probably not even going to be a very good joke.
President of the Mr. Clean fan club. Mr. Clean, Mr.
So
Clean.
tell me what you want it to say, Rob, and I'll put it in there, and I'll quit making. I don't
know, but
shots.
you need to change your brisket because, like, how long are you going to gripe about the brisket?
The brisket is forever. I'm not changing it until I have something better to say.
Gas prices are too high.
No, brisket prices, man. That's where you lead the real populist revolt.
Yeah.
So anyway, brother, I appreciate you being on the show. And
my pleasure to be here as always when I can.
All right, so we're going to take a break real quick, folks. We're going to give Rob a little time to exit the studio, and then we're going to talk James Comey fallout on this very exciting day. Really, a whole bunch of stuff has happened. When you look at the indictments, you got Fauci's lieutenant indicted, Comey's indicted. So many things are going on right now, surprisingly under Todd Blanche's leadership, which makes you wonder, honestly, it's a fair question, what exactly was Pam Bondi doing with all of this? We're going to be back here in just a moment.
For centuries, light has been used to heal. Awaken the body with Red 5.
This is our family dog, Bubba. He is a Shorty Jack Russell, and he brings a lot of love and laughter into our home. We just want to thank Pet Club for making healthy food and treats for our animals. Bubba has been on Pet Club food for a little over a year now. He really likes the Sequoia dry food, and then I put a scoop of the Sequoia wet dog food in there with some hot water and stir it up, and he absolutely loves it. And he likes the mush puppies, but his ultimate favorite is the antlers. Those keep him busy for a really long time, and he really likes them. It makes us feel really good that the food and treats that we give him have healthy ingredients in them because we want him to be around for a really long time. Our previous dog was a lab, and his name was Titus, and we fed him in bulk, and we would just get his food from the big box grocery stores. And unfortunately, that food wasn't very healthy for him, and he ended up getting cancer and passing away. So we didn't want to make that mistake with Bubba, so we were really fortunate to find Pet Club, and find some really healthy food for him to eat. So we would just like to thank Pet Club, and we just really appreciate the healthy food that they make so we can keep this guy around as long as we can.
Why is Red Vive different? What sets it apart? What sets us apart from the standard red light panels? This is a medical grade device, and what that means is the red light bulbs and the near infrared bulbs have very specific wavelengths. If you think about the wavelength as the medicine, the 635, the 670, the 810, the 850, those were specifically chosen because those are the most powerful effectors of the cells. So those specific wavelengths, when they get into our body, when they affect our tissue, they spike energy production, they help with nerve pain control, they increase stem cell counts. There's very specific mechanisms that those specific wavelengths work at, and that's the medicine. So if you think of, say, medicine as an Advil or a specific steroid or a blood pressure medication, the wavelength is the medication. The other part of that, whenever you take a medication, is dose. Right? So you have the medication. So if you take 1 milligram of Advil and the average dose of an Advil is 200 milligrams to 800 milligrams, it's not going to work. That doesn't mean the medicine's bad. It just means you didn't take enough. Right? And so even if you have the right wavelengths, first you have to have the right medicine, and then you have to have the right dose. And to have the right dose, you have, in light therapy, you have to have enough energy. So you have to have a powerful bulb. The LED bulbs, or light emitting diodes, have a specific wavelength, and that wavelength is the medicine. And the wavelengths that have been studied and published on that are the most powerful in affecting healing and the changes that we want to see with our bodies and our health are the 635 wavelength, the 670.
For centuries, light has been used to heal. Awaken the body with Red Vive.
The other things that we're seeing, more and more use for is even vascular issues. So one of the mechanisms that red light, near infrared light, or Red Vive works is stimulation of the mitochondria and stimulation of nitric oxide production. So when nitric oxide is released in cells, it vasodilates cells. It reduces inflammation. It moves blood. It brings blood flow to areas. So folks that have issues with ulcers or burns or wounds, it can help stimulate increased blood supply, and you need blood to heal. So that can open up different avenues for peripheral artery disease, for neuropathic pain syndromes. And so that's one of the other areas for nerve injury or nerve pain that we can leverage this type of medicine.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Apologize for those ad breaks being a little discombobulated. Still trying to straighten some things out with our affiliates where we go on local breaks and firing these tones. It's kind of a new thing. When we got on here, when we were put on LFA TV, and Jeremy was gracious enough to put the show on LFA TV, we were just a 1 hour program. We went to a 2 hour show, and then we had to work some stuff out with the North Central Arkansas digital cable channel that we're on. And so now we're on 2 hours there, but we're also doing local ad breaks and everything else. And actually, you guys should you should have rejoined us. So we appreciate it. I want to do a few more things before we get over to James Comey and the fallout with James Comey's arrest today, which is kind of crazy. Never thought I would say that, as much as I've been advocating for it. I want to just spend a little bit more time here on this Supreme Court decision and what it means moving forward for Republican states, Republican-controlled states. First of all, the first thing it means is that your local elections matter. Your local elections now matter more in red states, in southern red states, in the Midwest, across the plains. These elections now matter even more because of our representation in D.C., because we get rid of these court-ordered, court-enforced, race-based, gerrymandered districts. It is incredible that this happened. And it was a 6-3 decision. Say what you want. I'm not a fan of Mitch McConnell at all, and he should have retired long ago. But say what you want. Mitch McConnell got these nominees in to the Supreme Court that made this decision. I want to go back to Jeremy Carl, who is the author of the book, The Unprotected Class. We already read one post from him, but he says this. He says, I remember repeatedly arguing more than 3 decades ago in college that the Supreme Court's interpretation of the Voting Rights Act created majority-minority districts was an unconstitutional Democrat gerrymander. Yes, I was an election nerd even then. Finally, we have overturned this injustice. And this is a majority-minority districts in 2024. And these, of course, the Democrat ones are the ones in blue, and the ones in the South basically go away. If the Republicans will do what Florida did today, Florida in the House and the Senate passing their election, their new map, and I'll show you a picture of what that map will look like right here. There you see it on your screen. Only 4 blue districts. It's going to be a solidly red state for a very, very long time, we hope. Then we have another quote from somebody named Ronald Carter, and he says that he wants to tell you the real story of what this Supreme Court decision means today. He says nobody's telling you the real story about the SCOTUS voting rights ruling. Yes, the court ruled 6-3. Yes, race-based districting is now unconstitutional. Yes, Louisiana's map got thrown out. But here's the part everyone is missing. He says Democrats don't have a House majority without those court-ordered maps. He says a dozen of their current seats sit in districts that only exist because federal courts force states to draw them. Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, every one has at least one Democrat seat in a court-created black majority district. Their House margin is 4 seats. SCOTUS just made 12 of their 213 seats legally redrawable. Republican-led legislatures don't need new voters. They need a redistricting committee and a Tuesday afternoon. If race-based districts are unconstitutional, then Louisiana redraws. If Louisiana redraws, then Alabama redraws. Alabama redraws, then every southern state redraws. If every southern state redraws, Democrat House majority was a 60-year, listen to this, this is what we've lived in our entire lives. The Democrat House majorities were a 60-year courtroom artifact, not an actual election result. That's what nobody is saying out loud. The 2026 midterms were just decided in a 6-3 decision 6 months before Election Day. If you're not following me, then find out about blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I am not as optimistic to say that because of this decision, that means the midterms are in the bag. We did start, however, the top of the show asking the question, why does Trump not seem concerned about the midterms? Why does Speaker Johnson not seem concerned about the midterms? Did they know that this was the likely outcome of this case? Maybe they did. But you still need red state legislatures to act. You still have to have them act on this, like Florida did today. And things become a lot different very, very quickly if that in fact happens. So it's certainly a positive day, certainly a good day for this. It's been a good couple of days, and that brings us to Jim Comey. Here is CNN reporting about James Comey's surrender.
Well, Comey is in the courtroom, and the hearing is starting now, the very first appearance of this former FBI director accused of threatening the president's life with that post on Instagram.
Whoa, you can really tell that this lady is not a fan. She says it sarcastically. Well, he's in the courtroom accused of threatening the president's life.
Instagram a year ago with seashells in the sand. This is the first hearing.
What did you threaten the president with? Seashells.
That will happen in this courthouse, the Eastern District of Virginia. But this is a case that's charged in North Carolina because that's where that beach photo was taken. This first appearance, Comey now being under arrest.
All right, I'm going to reiterate this. I'm going to kind of condense what I said yesterday about this topic because it needs to be said. Well, first of all, I'll say, as I said earlier, reiterate, I don't really care how they get James Comey, but people like him, Comey, Clapper, Brennan, Eric, CIA, Ramella, all of these guys, there has to be accountability here. There has to be a price paid for this intel oligarchy color revolution that's been run against the United States for at least the last decade. Specifically, though, with these charges, and I think it's also good to note, we don't know what kind of evidence the grand jury saw, and we're not going to get that until the trial. You have to assume they saw something. Maybe there's a text message of James Comey admitting that, he was threatening the president. I don't know. Maybe there's also this forfeiture clause now. If he's convicted of this, many people thought 8647 was also, and I remember reporting on this, that he posted that on Instagram to try to sell his book because he launched a book tour after he said 8647. So they're now saying if he's convicted, he'll have to forfeit any money he made off of the post. So that may give you some indication of what kind of evidence they have, that there may be texts or witnesses about, why he was motivated to do this. But the arrest of James Comey today is a culmination of one simple truth. James Comey and his intel oligarchy refused the peaceful transfer of power in 2016. It's as simple as that. This is the culmination, and it's not the end. It can't be the end. But what we have seen over the last 48 hours, I just want to be very clear. It's as simple as this. The people of this country elected Donald Trump in 2016, and James Comey and his loyalists refused the peaceful transfer of power. And it's probably because they knew that they were caught spying on him and framing him and taking the Hillary Clinton talking points and taking the dossier and everything else. But that's what this is. That their actions after the election of Donald Trump were, we refuse, the deep state refused to surrender power peacefully. And that is the real reason why he is under arrest, in my opinion. Now, additionally to that, we can talk about the merits. Again, we don't know what the evidence is. But, as I said yesterday, James Comey is arguably the most powerful spy in the land. Okay, the Federal Bureau of Investigation might as well be renamed to the Federal Bureau of Intelligence. This man knows things, and this man also has loyalists embedded inside the FBI or the NSA or all of those alphabet soup organizations that are supposed to keep the American people safe. And they took their mission and they said, hey, Trump is a danger to the American people, which is a lie. It really was, they thought Trump is a danger to them and their power, and they turned it all on him. So, when he says 8647 in a public forum, it is different than if some rando or even a journalist says 8647 or whatever. It's totally different. This man is part of intelligence statecraft. He's part of this whole apparatus. There are people within the government, Secret Service, or wherever we can assume that are loyal to James Comey, that agree with him, that hate President Trump. They're communists still embedded in the DOJ. It is perfectly reasonable to assume that the head spy, arguably, certainly when he was in power, think J. Edgar Hoover, folks, was sending a message to people he knew would get the right message and legitimately put the president's life at risk. It is reasonable to assume that, and that is why somebody like James Comey, I mean, it would be like a former president, okay, a former president from an opposing party, starting to have meetings and conversations with former. It's not far off from a former president trying to start having meetings with military leaders or former military leaders to try to do some sort of coup. When you are in the opposition, or at least you've been placed in the opposition, like Donald Trump did when he fired James Comey, it is not responsible for you to go about and start to foment. Because none of us actually believe he didn't know what 8647 meant. I mean, obviously, I'm assuming that that's a lie, and I think any reasonable person would assume that that is a lie. This is unbecoming. This is not what you do as somebody who's arguably the most powerful spy spook in our government. You don't go and conspire against the current government. In any scenario, that is met with suspicion. But then when you overtly allude to assassination, and again, it comes back to this simple point. James Comey and his loyalists and the people in his club refused the peaceful transfer of power in 2016, and that has led us to this point. And we've got to go further. And again, I don't care if you go after James Comey for tax fraud like they did Al Capone or any of the other people. But they have to be made to pay a price for their blatant criminal activity. And I would argue treason. The very thing they accused President Trump of, the very thing they framed President Trump of, you're working with the Russians to destroy our country, it's the actual thing they did. In other news, or continue with this story, just remember James Comey and what he did with admitting to what he did to General Flynn.
You look at this White House now, and it's hard to imagine 2 FBI agents ending up in the sit room. How did that happen?
I sent them. Something I probably wouldn't have done or maybe gotten away with in a more organized investigation, a more organized administration, in the George W. Bush administration, for example, or the Obama administration. The protocol, 2 men that all of us have perhaps increased appreciation for over the last 2 years. And in both of those administrations, there was process. And so if the FBI wanted to send agents into the White House itself to interview a senior official, you would work through the White House counsel, and there'd be discussions and approvals, and who would be there. And I thought, it's early enough, let's just send a couple guys over. And so we placed a call to Flynn, said, hey, we're sending a couple guys over. Hope you'll talk to them. He said, sure. Nobody else was there. They interviewed him in a conference room at the White House Situation Room, and he lied to them. And that's what he's now pled guilty to.
What did he think?
So this James Comey admitting that he destroyed the career of General Michael Flynn because, well, we know General Flynn knows where a lot of the bodies are buried. And obviously his description of what General Flynn did once he was charged, we now know that the judge and the prosecution, the government in that case, withheld exculpatory evidence, and General Flynn was going to be made to pay the price for the people electing Donald Trump if they couldn't get President Trump. And of course, we know the Mueller investigation didn't get President Trump because the Mueller investigation was largely an attempt to cover up everything that they did in 2016. Likewise, the intelligence report that was created by Devin Nunes and Congressman Rick Crawford after Biden won the 2020 election, the intelligence report that was declassified by Tulsi Gabbard that proved that President Obama ordered all of this fake intelligence to begin with to be created out of whole cloth. We also suspect that the Mar-a-Lago raid on President Trump was Jack Smith and the intel oligarch like Comey and others looking for this intel report by the HIPC. They, of course, staged the raid, and they brought their own classified sheets to put over, took the photos, and then leaked it to the press. They have to pay for all of these crimes. They have to pay for all of their theater. They have to pay for all of their leaks, or we're slaves. Or we're slaves. So I don't I don't want to come to the realization that I'm just a slave in a strip mall labor colony. I like to know that when we do vote, even though we don't get exactly what we want and it's not perfect, I'd like to know that there will be accountability for these people in some way, shape, or form, that our vote did lead to the arrest of James Comey and others like him who did what they did. Because if we don't get that, then we are actually slaves being told we're free. And that's why this is so important to me personally. Here's Attorney General Todd Blanche, who is, I will admit, I'm very shocked so far. I'm wondering, where was Pam Bondi? Why did it take this long to get to this point? I don't fully trust Todd Blanche. I still don't trust him. But at the same time, I will reiterate what I said when the Southern Poverty Law Center indictment came out. Man, I'm sure glad, and I think from an optics standpoint, this was a political genius move. I am sure glad that I didn't have to listen to Pam Bondi stand behind that podium talking about the Southern Poverty Law Center. Likewise, he just comes across, Pam Bondi, it would have been like, we issued an indictment against James Comey, 8647, that disgusting James Comey, when we said we would do it. I didn't have to listen to any of that. I didn't have to listen to nails on a chalkboard. So in that instance, it's a breath of fresh air, but I do not fully trust Todd Blanche. I think he's a Democrat. But maybe someday I'll be able to reconcile this conflict that I'm having. But here he is on CBS Morning News after the news of the indictment of James Comey.
In this country thinks, especially what happened over the past couple years with respect to President Trump, that it is okay for anybody to threaten the President of the United States, that it is okay to threaten the President of the United States and then have the media or others say, well, that's not serious.
Look at this B-roll that they're running. Look at this B-roll they're running. This is James Comey, famous shot of James Comey approaching President Trump. This guy gets interviewed by George Snuffleupagus last year and gets interviewed, and George Stephanopoulos asks him, hey, you briefed President Trump on the PP dossier and the Steele dossier. You briefed him on that. He says, yes. Did you tell him? Did you tell him that it was funded by what we now... This is George Snuffleupagus, ABC News, saying this, admitting this. Did you tell him that it was funded by his political opponent, Hillary Clinton, that he had just beaten in the previous election? James Comey says, no, I didn't. Don't you think he should have known that? And then James Comey says, no, not really. And yet he's shaking his hand, and yet literally had knives out for President Trump the entire time, this guy. Look at this. I'm a Boy Scout. He thinks he's a Boy Scout. What an absolute joke. Here is James Comey literally admitting that he knew the meaning of 86 when he went on Stephen Colbert to promote his book.
Here, but is this Instagram?
Instagram,
You
yeah.
grammed this. You were walking down the beach. What happened? You were walking down the beach, and you saw this on the beach?
Yeah, my wife and I, Patrice, were walking on the beach and saw those numbers in shells on the beach. And
You didn't do this. Somebody else did this.
Yeah, somebody else did it. We were on a walk preparing for
I think this clip is going to be, somebody else did it. I am predicting in the future we are going to have evidence that, and this may be the evidence that the grand jury saw, that he actually didn't just find this. I think it's ridiculous to think that he just stumbled upon... what a coincidence. The guy that hates Trump maybe more than anybody in the entire deep state stumbles upon shells that say 8647. Is it possible? Yeah. But I think this clip will be run on repeat once it's proven that he actually decided to get a little artistic on the beach that day, and he created this concoction for himself. That would be the first lie.
You didn't do this. Somebody else did this.
Yeah, somebody else did it. We were on a walk preparing for this week, the rollout of my book.
Yep.
She looked at it and said, why'd someone put their address in the sand?
All right.
And then we stood at it, trying to figure out what it was. And she'd long been a server in restaurants. And she said, you know what I think it is?
Yeah.
I think it's a reference to restaurants when you would 86 something in a restaurant.
Right, it's off the menu.
Yeah. I said, no, I remember when I was a kid, you'd say 86 to get out of a place. This place stinks, let's 86 it.
Right. I was a bartender. You would 86 a customer if they were getting drunk. Like, let's 86 them. Let's, like, give them a low-proof alcohol, something like that. Yeah.
And so I said, I think it's a clever political message. And she said, you should take a picture of it. I said, sure. And then she said, you should Instagram that. And boom.
Well...
You and I both know that is not the real story. I'm surprised his body language. I mean, as the former head of the FBI, I'm surprised his body language is so suspect. I don't believe that for a second, and I don't think anybody else does either. But that's why there's this forfeiture clause on the indictment, because he posted it and then went and did interviews to drum up sales for his book. We missed this. So the U.S. attorney from North Carolina that actually is responsible for getting this indictment against James Comey, he gave a press conference yesterday along with Blanche and Kash Patel, and we didn't actually get to this part. And so I wanted to bring this point to you because I thought this was relevant. Listen, let me give his name. This is U.S. Attorney Boyle. He's leading the charge to prosecute.
Attorney General. Earlier today, a grand jury in the Eastern District of North Carolina returned a true bill indicting Mr. James Comey with committing 2 felonies. Count 1, he knowingly and willfully made a threat to kill and to inflict bodily harm upon the President of the United States in violation of 18 U.S.C. 871A. Count 2, he knowingly and willfully transmitted in interstate and foreign commerce a communication that contained a threat to kill President Trump in violation of 18 U.S.C. 875C. Mr. Comey will be given every form of due process all citizens are entitled to receive, to include a trial by a jury of his peers. In the Eastern District of North Carolina, it doesn't matter who you are. We take all threat cases seriously and prosecute anyone who violates federal law, regardless of title or status. Thank you.
I mean, not anybody, let's be honest. There's plenty of people. But actually, the higher your status, the more scrutiny you should receive. And I think that's a no-brainer. In other news, just kind of a follow-up to what we talked about yesterday with the disturbing Orwellian theme coming out of this Congress, where enough Republicans, along with the Democrats, passed regulations that are going to require all cars that are built next year to have government surveillance capabilities, the likes of which that would make George Orwell blush, in your cars. They want the ability to curb your freedom. The American automobile, the idea of driving wherever you want in this country, is part of the American way of life. It's part of our independence. They want to stop that with the rise of AI, with the rise of these data centers. There's so much involved here, and we have to rise up and stop this. We have got to tell our Congress people, no, we do not want this technology mandated in cars. We do not want this. Anna Paulina Luna saying we want voter ID, but the Pawn Stars people, best I can do is mandatory dystopian kill switches in all cars. This is the type of technology. You combine this with the AI patents that Ford has filed, patents that will run your biometrics. Every time you get in the car, it's going to run your biometrics and submit your face, your fingerprints, your iris scans to active criminal databases. There's also patents filed to be able to monitor all of your speech for advertising targeting. If you speak too quietly and they can't read your lips or they can't listen in, the speakers in your Ford car, again, when this technology is implemented, and it probably is already in models that you don't know about, the speaker, there's a technology out there that can send sound waves through the speaker that are undetectable to the human ear, but based on the vibrations of your lips and of your voice, it sends sound back, and then the sound vibrations interpret it, and it registers, and they can hear what you're saying that way. I mean, it's Orwellian. I mean, it's the technology to enslave ourselves, It's real. It's here. And we shouldn't just go quietly into the night and let it happen. I want my car keys back. I don't even like I'm to the point where I don't even like the push start. Give me a key, please. We talked about yesterday how Obama's Cash for Clunkers was a perfect operation to give people money for their clunkers, but then they permanently destroyed the engines, meaning there are less cars on the road without computer chips. That was the goal. They want cars with computer chips that they can control so that they can spy on you. And they don't want that this is an attack, folks. And Mark Lynch from South Carolina, who's running against Lady Lindsey Graham, she says these 2027 cars would never allow drunkard Lindsey Graham to drive again. That's a very funny joke. The reality is Orwellian overreach like this is beyond dangerous for women running from a would-be abuser or an attempted car theft, many potential problems. So the AI will register your biometrics. It'll register your eyes. It'll register whether or not it thinks that there's something wrong with you, whether if you're having a medical emergency or if you are in a panic and trying to get away. The possibility exists that this car would just not start for you. It wouldn't shift into gear for you because it deems you are unsettled and are not your normal self. And trust me, it'll happen. It'll happen. You know, the hospital that the United States bombed over in Iran with the 160 Iranian schoolgirls that, it looks like we did it. Okay, that's the general assumption. Could it be wrong? Yeah, but I suspect that it's correct, right? Allegedly, it was done by artificial intelligence. Many people are thinking the reason that school got bombed, is because we had handed over decision-making in some form to artificial intelligence. Whoops. Artificial intelligence makes mistakes. And when it makes mistakes, it's not a reason to go back to the drawing board. Maybe sometimes it is. Maybe sometimes, we can make it better. But when it comes to stuff like this, there are giant warning signs that say, actually, maybe we shouldn't allow machines to have control over this particular aspect of our lives. Whether it's deciding which targets to hit in a foreign country to protect civilians, or one of the quintessential ideas of American freedom, which would be, I can get in my car and drive wherever I want. I can get my car and drive wherever I want. And that freedom and autonomy, we're to the point, it scares the globalists. It scares the technocrats. It scares those with totalitarian motivations. It's obvious that that's the case. Speaking of totalitarian motivations, we now move on to a controversy concerning Angel Studios' Animal Farm. So, Timcast made news a couple of weeks ago when he posted on X that Timcast from, the podcaster, you guys know who that is, he said he was approached by Angel Studios to advertise their upcoming film, Animal Farm, directed by Andy Serkis, the guy who played Gollum in the Lord of the Rings movies, which was the zenith of filmmaking, where leftists were able to put their radical leftist views away and actually be actors and actually obey the source material, honor the source material of J.R.R. Tolkien. They now are no longer allowed to do that. They've lost control of themselves. They are not able to just do works of fiction based on... Now, that's the whole point of an actor. Jerry Seinfeld had the biggest burn ever on actors one time about how actors are useless, how stand-up comedians who write their own material are actually valuable, but actors are like, turn the camera on, quick, say what I wrote you to say, because that's all an actor does. An actor an actor speaks lines that are already written for him, or interprets works and that are written based on, and you try to be true to the source material. But they didn't do that. According to Tim Pool, he said, I will not advertise for this movie because I watched Animal Farm, and it's not about, they've rewritten George Orwell, and instead of this being a warning about communism and Marxism, instead it's a critique of capitalism, and it's completely bastardized. Screen Rant on April 22nd wrote, Animal Farm swaps out George Orwell's questions for a different one. What if a movie spent millions with a legendary cast only to target the wrong demographic and abandon the classic tale's message? Some adaptations, it seems, are far less equal than others. Animal Farm completely betrays its source material. That's exactly what it does. Tim Pool is correct here. That didn't stop people from, publishing their ads. Riley Gaines, who I'm a big fan of, by the way. I mean, in terms of her advocacy, exposing the trans issue in men and women's sports and all that. Like, I think Riley Gaines did a great job there. It looks like she decided to, maybe she has a contract with Angel Studios, but she put out an ad for it. And she said, quote, my husband and I got early access screening to Animal Farm, an animated adaptation of George Orwell's novel made by Angel Studios. Incredibly well done, she says. They do a perfect job of reminding viewers that Marxism always has and always will fail. Tim Pool responds and says, no. He says, Riley's post paid for, hence the partner tag. He says the new Animal Farm is about happy animals sold off after a farmer can't pay his mortgage. One pig gets in credit card debt and agrees to sell the farm in a private equity deal to Elon Musk's mom, who then builds a hydroelectric dam on the property so the animals rebel and plant explosives, which blow up the dam, killing all her employees. Not a single analog or comment on Marxism, let alone communism. Angel Studios really screwed up here. Let's hope they learned their lesson and they, make movies again that do better, But you know what? Angel Studios' lesson here is you tried to go mainstream. You hired actors like Seth Rogen. You hired actors like Andy Serkis, the director who literally said that they had to reinterpret Orwell for the modern day in our modern political context. What you're actually watching is Hollywood and these leftists. They are abandoning their art. This is personal for me, as somebody who saw a play over the weekend that was the farthest thing from art I've ever seen, and I know a thing or two about it because it's what I used to do, and it's just really sad that the politics have consumed. Politics has so become a religion for the left because they are religious less in the true sense of the word. They're godless. So they devoted themselves to something to fill that void. And it's just sad. I mean, Francis Schaeffer predicted it. You can see that the art gets worse and worse. As your society collapses, the art gets worse and worse. You saw it in ancient Rome. The coins, the pictures of Caesar on their currency used to be pristine, and as the empire got worse and worse and started failing, the artists got worse. The quality of their art actually decreased. And so that's what you're seeing out of Hollywood. If Lord of the Rings was made today, it would be, Gandalf would have a purple beard, and they'd have a diverse cast where the elves would be Asian and the dwarves would be black, and the hobbits, good grief, I don't know what they'd be. They'd probably be actual midgets or dwarves or whatever. They wouldn't be able to make it today. They wouldn't just be able to take what J.R.R. Tolkien wrote, one of the most popular books ever written, The Lord of the Rings, and put it to film the best they can without putting their woke messaging in it. So we're watching art just totally go by the wayside. And so what Angel Studios needs to learn from this, Angel Studios needs to learn that you don't trust mainstream artists because they've clearly shown they are no longer artists. They are not able to put... The whole point of being an actor is to be someone that you are not. That is the whole point. I'm an actor. You transform yourself to be a character that's not really you. It's not you. These people can't do that anymore, which again says that they've totally abandoned the art of it. They have to be themselves. They have to put something of themselves and their personal opinions in the role. It's actually insane when you think about it, or at least in my opinion it is. The Redhead Libertarian writes, many of you know I've been partnering with Angel Studios for 3 years. That's never been a secret. I interviewed much of their founding team, many of the production members for Sound of Freedom and Cabrini, and was a lead promoter of their movie Cabrini. She says, I love their work. I'm currently watching The Chosen. My daughters love the Tuttle Twins. I frequently cite Orwell here on X and was really excited when I heard they were doing Animal Farm. I'm kind of a book snob and was interested to see how closely it followed the book. All the clips and trailers I saw were very cute. There were no red flags. However, I was sent an interview this morning with the director saying he purposely did not respect the integrity of the book. In other words, he Orwelled Orwell. Knowing this now, I cannot in good faith promote this movie to all you like I did Cabrini and Sound of Freedom. I do want to say that Angel Studios does excellent work. I haven't actually seen them miss until now. They're human and good humans at that who do mean well, but they're going to miss sometimes. I'll miss sometimes too. What is important is considering new information when you receive it and maintaining your integrity. I'm not going to discourage anybody from watching this movie. You should draw your own conclusions. I'm still going to watch it anyway because my curiosity is piqued. You don't need me to think for you or anyone else. I will continue to promote Angel Studios' Catholic and history work, as I always have, because I do believe in their mission. So they trusted these guys to be able to be actual artists, and instead they're just political activists. So that's the situation that we have right now. In other news, Hakeem Jeffries wrote this, I guess after the Supreme Court decision, voter suppression is a way of life for Donald Trump and far-right extremists on the Supreme Court. Republicans know they cannot win a free and fair election in November, and so they are desperate to rig it. We will never let them succeed. So R.N. McIntyre claims that a terrorist tried to kill Trump just a few days ago after spouting exactly this type of rhetoric. Jeffries knows he's spinning up the next assassin. In fact, he's counting on it. Again, this kind of goes back to the fact that they really they can't help themselves. And lastly, today, in one of the most hilarious things I've seen probably this month, I'm going to say this is probably the most hilarious thing this month, Donald Trump reminding everybody that the head of NASA has very large ears.
Are you considering relocating NASA's headquarters out of D.C. once the lease is up? States like Texas, Ohio, and Florida.
Well, the best man to tell you that is the man standing right over here. You heard that question? With those beautiful ears of yours? He's got great hearing, he's got super hearing.
Trick of the trade, sir.
Are you considering relocating NASA's headquarters?
Hang on a second. We are going to go, hang on. We're going full screen here. I am going full screen with this because this zoom is absolutely incredible. Watch this one more time.
Are you considering relocating NASA's headquarters out of D.C. once the lease is up? States like Texas, Ohio, and Florida.
Well, the best man to tell you that is the man standing right over here. You heard that question? With those beautiful ears of yours? He's got great hearing, he's got super...
Bless his heart. Bless his heart. Those are some very large ears, and President Trump couldn't help himself. He literally, you can just see it. He just can't help himself. Well, the best man to answer that question looks at him. Well, there's this guy. He heard your question. Look at those ears. Oh, man. Bless his heart. Bless his heart, ladies and gentlemen. That's all the time that we have for this edition of the Paul Harrell program. We really appreciate you listening. We're going to be back here tomorrow, 4 p.m. Central. Make sure you like and subscribe to the LFA TV Rumble channel. And please, if you're watching on YouTube or you're not watching on YouTube, I would encourage you to go to YouTube and subscribe and click the little bell to receive notifications to the Paul Harrell Program YouTube channel, which many of you are watching right now. Or maybe not many, but hopefully soon, someday. I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Red Vive Health, New Horizon Real Estate, Gateway Sight and Sound, 7 Weeks Coffee, and Sherry Chiropractic. Don't forget to check out Pet Club 24/7 and use the link so that your pets can get natural goodness. We're going to continue telling about those great products. Folks, that's all the time that I have. God bless, and we'll see you tomorrow.